So
Yes.
let's talk Michigan. So the overreaction is that Michigan is better than Ohio State.
No, I can't. The last, was it 6 out of the last minutes in that fourth quarter against Penn State lets you know that Michigan is not better than when Ohio State just cranks it up from 5 to 6. People crumble, right? You can't even go to 10. They played like dog crap. They were losing in the fourth quarter. In a 6-minute span, this team scored 28 points and had 2 turnovers. Like, it's ridiculous. Like I don't want to get into my 3-star because my 3-star is one of the guys on that Ohio State squad, but it changed the entire complexion. 72 for Penn State, that poor right tackle, is going to be an actuary or an accountant now because of that game alone. Okay? He does not want to see a 44 for anything. No, he is scared of that number for the rest of his life.
He shows up at if he shows up at Starbucks and it's like 7:44, he's like, no, you know what? I'll buy something else.
Yeah. Give me the egg bites or some cake pop. I don't know. Give me something to change the number because and don't let it be 444 because that'd be even worse.
Yeah. Trevor,
this is so tough.
Yeah,
because all year long, all we've talked about is how good Ohio State is. But if you really go back and look at the schedule, you've got to look at Michigan and say, you've done everything that you're supposed to do up until this point.
They have.
You played really well against Penn State. And then this past week, I know Michigan State is down, but we had Christian Hackenberg on here talking about the Big Ten, talking about a rivalry game, talking about doesn't matter your record going into that one. Anything can happen. And I know it wasn't the prettiest win, but 29-7, that's pretty convincing in a big-time rivalry game. They did what they were supposed to do.
Sure.
And we were talking about this too. They've got to go up and play Illinois in conference play here in just a couple weeks. They still have that one to get past. If they can continue to just win and Blake Corum be their bell cow and J.J. McCarthy just not screw things up, if they can go out there and play Ohio State in the finale – and just have one day like they've shown they've done in the past. And I don't know. I'm just not bought in that it's going to be a cakewalk for Ohio State in that football game. I think Michigan's got a real shot to come out of the West and be the conference champion.
So here's my big thing. And this is the thing, and I'd love to get you guys' thoughts on it as offensive guys. Quarterback, offensive lineman. We saw Penn State capitalize on that Ohio State, that cover 0 that they play.
Yeah,
which I love it. I am obsessed with it. I was obsessed with it a year ago when it was Oklahoma State doing the same thing. But when you set your heels at 8 yards, and then you look at that quarterback, and the quarterback's like, I don't know what we're supposed to do, dog. And we saw Penn State have success, a Parker Washington touchdown after 2 missed tackles. When they put Parker Washington in the backfield, and a linebacker had to cover Penn State's leading receiver, I was like, oh, this is bad. On like one of those, what is like an angle route? Trevor, you tell me, what do you call the circle right there?
Yeah, a little, I think it was like a little bender, right? Because he's from the inside, just coming across the field.
Yeah, he goes from lined up next to the quarterback. He goes out. It looks like it's a wheel, and then he darts back inside.
Oh yeah, little from the backfield, little slant route, little bender, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. So he does that, and the linebacker's like, I'm trying to protect myself against the wheel. How come he's back inside there? And so we saw how you could take advantage of that defense, of course, but the reality of it is, and I think about this a lot because a couple of Michigan fans, they jumped in my mentions, and they were like, well, look at the time of possession, and time of possession is what we're doing. And I'm like, hey, man, time of possession is not a metric that you need to grade on. Because there's a lot of really bad football teams that win time of possession because it takes them so long to score. And when you play Ohio State, and this was a big thing for me with Penn State, and that's what we saw. Penn State was winning time of possession. And then, as you mentioned, Max, in 6 minutes, Ohio State completely decimated their entire approach.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about 1, 2, 3 play drives on the plus side of the field.
And a turnover.
And the pick six by a defensive end rushing the edge, high points it like a receiver in the back pylon corner. Reminded me of Santonio Holmes trying to get his feet down in Super Bowl. And then carries it like a loaf of bread. Carries it for the last 10 yards like a loaf of bread because nobody wants to tackle him because this dude literally looks like a pit bull with the leash off.
Yeah.
Okay?
I've seen that on a couple of my walks in the morning, and I'm like, oh, well, that's the street I'm not going down.
You know what? I left something at the house. I'm gonna just turn right back around right now. Like, I mean, that's how they felt. And that's where now, granted, I will say this, and Trevor, you can tell me if I'm wrong. The play calling for Ohio State for the first 3 quarters was garbage.
Well, hang on.
Okay, outside of Marvin Harrison.
Hang on. I think they were working on something. I think they were trying to run the football, and obviously when Mayan Williams goes down, things are different. But I think they were working on trying to force running, and then they were like, you know what? Let's just do the thing that we do. Is that crazy to say?
Not crazy to say. I don't think that they would have worked on things that long in a game of that caliber. But Max, to your point, and I know I went off on Michigan saying they have a shot, and that is my stance. They have a shot. That being said, Ohio State's firepower, their ability to really kick it into gear is unlike anything we've seen in a while.
Yeah.
They've got some dudes that can get down the field quick and put the ball in the end zone. And so it's going to my point, that game, to me right now, in all the country, there's going to be a lot of good games. Obviously, Tennessee, Georgia, right? That's a game you circle. But the one I just keep circling with that Sharpie that's almost bled through the paper is going to be that Michigan-Ohio State game because I think that's when we're going to see Ohio State really flex its muscles and give us their best shot. My only point was Michigan has a chance if they come out and play perfect on a day like that.
Sure.
Well, I just think it's because if you sleepwalk, like I felt like Ohio State did for the first 3 quarters.
Sure.
I mean, like you said, I get Williams went down, but you still have Marvin Harrison. That kid literally caught everything. It was
and you saw Henderson.
Yeah, but they and this is me. I felt like they didn't attack the middle of the field consistently enough against Penn State. Everything was short, numbers to sideline. It was a very horizontal game for them, and they pushed it only when they had to in third downs to keep a drive going, but it wasn't an emphasis for them when they know they have better guys. When you know that if you could get a guy in single high, you need to let it go.
Let me ask you guys this. I want to get you, Max, I want to get you first as an offensive lineman, as someone who has to protect the quarterback.
Yeah.
And then Trevor, I want to get this. I want to go into your mind on this as a quarterback. I thought the biggest issue for me was the way that CJ Stroud gave ground.
Mm-hmm.
When he didn't step up in the pocket, and he didn't tuck and run when he could have tucked and run. When there was space, when things cleared, he still tried to find that edge, right? He still tried to find outside of the tackle to find a way to run, to look down the field instead of just, I'll take this 2 or I'll take this 3 or I'll take this 4. So Max, when you're on that front and your quarterback is giving ground, how does that affect you? And then Trevor, hop in.
Yeah, so I think, CJ Stroud was showing a lot of Spencer Rattler from earlier in the year, South Carolina, right?
Yeah, that's a great point.
It was one of those things where it's like, I want to create space, right? I don't want to feel claustrophobic, which is, for a quarterback, you should never feel claustrophobic as long as the center and 2 guards are keeping the depth of the pocket at bay. When the second you start to retreat, that's my territory, right? Because I'm responsible for that width of the pocket. And I'm taught, take that guy on a hula hoop down to 9.5 to 10 yards. The problem is when your quarterback is taking a 5-step drop and he's at 7 yards deep and he decides he wants to take a couple more steps back, he's almost making it a point to be there. Plus the momentum of the offside tackle is slingshotting that guy into the direction that the quarterback's trying to escape. Like you said, you would love to see him step up or at least out to create that space laterally that he's looking for. But for some reason, CJ Stroud decided to retreat backwards and then start working, which put a lot of stress on the tackles. And I'm not a fan of that, but I also get that, hey, if he didn't feel comfortable up in the middle because of the D tackles and some of the things they were running in the middle of that line, I see why he did it, but that's a stressful situation for me. And having a quarterback who did that for years in the NFL, where Ben's like, nope, I'm just going to start leaking to the side of the guy, and then I'm going to back up, I'm going to go back right, and then I might even do a whirly bird and mush one guy in the face and take him to the ground that's trying to sack me, and then I'm going to do it. Like, that was a constant stress for us. But at the same time, you can't knock the result. But at the same time, it's like, don't get mad if you get hit at the same. He's like, I can't do everything.
Come on.
I think that's really well said, Max. We were always taught, if you have a long drop naturally, to put your toes half a yard up before the snap, right? So you're closer to the center to help your tackles out. But I was taught, get to 9, maybe 9.5, because you guys are running around at 10. The second you get around there, that's your own territory. Now, never told, especially if you're a running quarterback and can create plays down the field, not do that. If you can get out there, you got good scramble drill, you're Kyler Murray, you're Patrick Mahomes, even you're Big Ben, and you can keep your eye down the field and make plays. But understand that, believe it or not, those offensive tackles are looking forward. They're not looking at the quarterback. I know you got all your listeners out there, you don't understand that. When they're blocking and they give up a sack when a guy's 11 yards deep, they have a spot. They're pushing that guy to a spot, and it's the quarterback's job to step up, and then get out, step up, and then deliver the ball. Or they can get out, make sure that DN's not going to get them beat, get out early enough, and now you buy yourself some time to keep your eyes downfield and hit a Tyreek Hill or somebody, for 55 yards like Pat Mahomes does all the time. But if it is beyond 10 yards, it is not your fault unless you just got whipped.